morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from Mason Works Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with my new friend, Adam C. Hall. Hi, Adam. How are you?
Hello, Kathy. Nice to be here with you and all your listeners today. It's
Yeah.
great day.
So, Adam, is the C? Does the C stand for consciousness?
No, I love that. My dad gave me that middle name of Charles.
Oh, okay. Well, we could adapt it a little just for fun
Of
because
course.
that's really what you're talking about today. Today, Adam is going to share with us his journey to a new awareness and consciousness that could help you in every aspect of your life. He has a new book called Divine Genius, and it's the Unlearning Curve, which paves your way to access your own divine genius. And first, I wanted to talk about, I just want you to know that I've been taking a class and it's called Freedom from the Known. And that is so similar. I'm on my second time through. It is so powerful because you just don't realize all the layers. I mean, even, and I've done a lot of work, but there's still layers of programming that we have that need to be released so that we can get to our heart. So let's talk about your journey because you had an amazing journey to discover this information. So do you want to start there for us, Adam?
Well, I'm happy to, and it's great to be here with everybody. These, no doubt are extraordinary times. And of course, extraordinary times offers us a great opportunity to really leap into extraordinary opportunities. And my journey to where I sit here with you today has been, well, it's just an evolutionary journey that we all take in our own way. But the journey really began by my my pursuit of the American dream, and I think many of us are in this journey of, my gosh, I need to achieve a certain amount of fame or success, or we need to look a certain way, or and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I remain that way. I built a few real estate companies and built some companies that were primarily focused around investment banking and development in the real estate industry. And during those years, I really was living by, well, what they call in the law of the jungle, and that is when the sun comes up, whether you're the lion or gazelle, you better run like hell.
Right.
In other words, eat or be eaten. It's a dog eat dog world. The win lose mentality. The place where we are engaging in what I now describe myself as kind of a narcissist CEO that was really focused on, what's in it for my life. And ultimately, what I recognized, Kathy, and during that journey was that while I had achieved tremendous success by any measure, and with the big home and the clubs and the accoutrements and all that kind of stuff, I was still taking Tums in the morning and drinking too much tequila at night.
Yeah.
Something was missing in my life. So that occurred for me 18 years ago, and I made a decision that I needed to change my direction and trajectory. I had no idea where that would take me or what those steps were. I just knew that it was time to begin to expand into what's possible in my life and ground myself in deeper purpose and meaning. And at the time, it was like, oh gosh, terrifying, to be honest with you. And those next steps can be very difficult. But that's a little bit of background. And ultimately, I think the narcissism and the earth conquering, as I referred to myself as, it was time to let those things go, to let them die away, to really engage in a life that had a mission and a purpose. And here I am. It's great to be here with you in this amazing journey and being involved with business and what wants to happen with our community.
Well, I think there's a lot of us that saw the systems that were in place and the pace of it, the adrenaline and the rush of all of that is addicting until it's not. But it is addicting, and the game of it is addicting, I think, until it is not. And then one day you wake up and say, that's not kind, that's not loving, that's not um, capable of being sustainable in any way. It's not just your physical body that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable in an overall system, right?
Well, that's for sure. And I when you speak of the addiction, we're not just talking pathologies of drinking and boozing and sexing or all these other
Yeah,
kind of pathologies. We're talking about a pathology that drives us to an endless need of more. And let's remember, when we're in that place of adrenaline and those great rushes, I never forget closing some big deals or, knocking the other guy out of the box, so to speak. That yeah, it was that I'm victorious, and those generate high levels of serotonin and create a lot of adrenaline in our body. But also at the same time, it creates a lot of cortisol and we're living in a very stressful
right,
environment. And I just read a stat in the Wall Street Journal yesterday that over 50% of us are in a place of not really knowing what our next moves are. In other words, what are we really going to show up for? In other words, there's a lot of places where we're beginning to second guess ourselves. In other words, we don't have the right now the feeling of our own sense of being or our sense of confidence to step into what is possible for us or what are those next moves. And this is a place of a lot of tension and a lot of cortisol. And this is why we're seeing over 4 million people in the US. This is a global event, that tectonic shift that's happening in business right now, where people are leaving their places of work.
yep,
It's not a matter of money. It's a matter of they're unfulfilled. They're looking for more a purpose and mission. And the word I use is really mission.
right,
And this is what's going on. And I'm with you on your thoughts around that adrenaline rush. And then ultimately we're in a state of dis-ease
right, right.
and really a death cycle versus wellness and living a vibrant life, our best life now, if that makes sense.
I do think it makes sense, and I think I mentioned to you before we came on, and I would like to mention again, is that I really see that there's a whole there's a I want to say tsunami because it's not
Mhm,
a small amount of people. It could be 20, 30% of
mhm.
of people waking up to this whole new way of being that actually is more core, geared toward oneness and co-creative emergence where people can actually see the beauty and the gift in each other and use it in a collaborative way. What we've had is this, this hierarchy dynamic, and I'm seeing it turn into a circle. And the leader is not necessarily in the middle. The leader might be in the circle alongside everyone. And that's what I see. As soon as business can change, we have a huge opportunity to change the society. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. If we think about business and the evolution of business, it's the greatest social engine that we know of, and being that it has the power and the capacity to create big shifts in culture in general, but certainly within a business in and of itself, whether you're a startup or a small business,
Yeah.
that leadership offers the everybody within that circle an opportunity for evolution. And so one of the things when I'm advising leaders is to not get myopic and stuck in the center per se, but be in the dance of your of your circle, of your company. Be in the dance where you're connecting with the newest person, perhaps there that may be working on a doc that's distributing your product, or somebody that may be sitting doing your accounting in the C-suite, so to speak. So I think there's a great possibility of leadership right now that has never been afforded because of the movement. We think about conscious evolution, and we think about how we want to evolve ourselves. Of course, the same applies how we consciously evolving our business,
Right.
which is such a hot topic today. And I think I have my own thoughts around it. But how are we actually creating movement into a higher order, a higher vibration, a higher frequency where we actually can be more creative, more productive, where we can increase the wellness of our people and our leadership. And so I like focusing in that arena as well. And so just a thought there. And hold on one second. I want to just drop my lighting here. It's a little bright, and I want
Okay,
to
good.
do that for a
Okay,
second. So don't mind me.
okay.
Forgive that movement. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, what I wanted to say also for the audience is that I'm seeing more and more people start telling their story that 5 years ago, all of a sudden they were in. I did it 20 years ago. I had a great job with Arthur Anderson, running a division of it, and just one day it was, no, this is so not my life path. And people don't know, they trust, and they jump off the diving board into the swimming pool of who knows what, but they right away um, feel that they have a potential to fulfill their soul mission. Whereas right now, we're seeing this, as I said, tsunami of people questioning their life mission. And I think it's part of the energies that are happening here on the earth right now. The soul wants to be embodied. And if you're not at a high enough frequency, if your environment is dumbing you down, it can't get in there. It can't get in your physical body. He's going to be back in a second. So again, what I want you to see, this is going to be a big part of the conversation is the 13. He has 13, what's he called them? Um, uh, are you better?
I'm back. I apologize. The
Wisdom.
sun is moving around here in sunny Southern California, and I'm getting
I can't
blasted
move
here. But
the sun.
we'll roll with what we've got, right? That's how we do it. It's
Yeah.
adaptability. It's not survivability. It's adaptability.
Okay, so I want to ask a question real quick, and then we'll go to your book, but about trust, because
Yeah.
you came to a turning point in your life where you started listening to your divine connection, and you took a chance, went to Peru, had an experience, and then everything started to unfold like a flower, a buds opening up and changing. And how do you explain that trust that you had when you worked with your soul guide? You worked with a guide.
Yes. Yes. Well, you're hitting upon something that I think is key. And anytime we're in that conscious evolution, being it's an interpersonal type of development, interpersonal type of moving into greater meaning or purpose, for example, or we're out doing our work in the world, it begs the question, are we coming from a place of trust?
Right,
And of course, it's all an inside game, and the trust begins by trusting ourselves.
right,
A dear friend once said, there's no safe places, there's only safe people. And it begs the question, are you a safe, trustworthy person,
Interesting.
individually or within your company? And this is the key to, I think, leadership, not only leading ourselves forward, as you're talking about, bringing our heart and our soul forward and our genius, as I refer to in the book, divine genius, but it begins with that trust. And what I found is it was a powerful crossing point, like a bridge between an untrustworthy life, because we're in a world, and I think there's a lot of, we start with mistrust
Mhm.
often. And we assume that the person's is not necessarily trustworthy until they earn our trust. That's kind of the paradigm of our current
Business.
business culture and all our culture in general. And what we're being asked to do now, what I found in my own personal journey into those jungles of Peru and into the mountains, and but also into other places of the world. But what I found in the work that I'm doing with leaders today is they often aren't in a place of trust of their inner self, of their inner knowing.
Right.
And that leads to a lot of places where they need to defend or they need to hide from their truly authentic feelings. In other words, they kind of repress their emotional intelligence or are not in touch with those emotions. And it creates more of lack of a better word, a facade. And the, popular word today is just, you're an imposter. And I know that imposter because I was one. I wasn't living my authentic
Yeah.
life.
Right.
And so the journey to building trust and inner trust was one that was unique for me, but it begins with, one step at a time. It's like if you're a cobbler putting together the road forward and you're cobbling the stones together, or the pathway, the steps forward. We need to do that one step at a time. And in the divine genius, that's what we talk about, is putting forth these steps, a map forward through these 13 wisdom teachings.
Perfect.
And they
That's
offer us a way through, because it begins by coming into a deep presence of our own trust in our own safety. And I hope that's making some sense. And there's a lot to be shared there, but it's a key piece. And thank you for bringing it up, because it's time to live in a place of deep inner trust of ourselves and others.
yes. I think that I call it the costume. The persona that I used to have going to work,
Mm,
that I was able to release as soon as I started working for myself, and had the opportunity to have the fun of appreciating that. I mean, I think the tension in a lot of businesses
yeah.
is because of the hierarchy. You don't get to really show yourself completely. I'm psychic and intuitive, so
Mhm.
I would see the patterns and see other things going on, and I had to just be quiet because that
Right.
wasn't acceptable 20 years ago to really talk about that. But you had a knowing, and you could direct people for their highest good. You could be the little angel to tell them this, or give them the inspiration that it's their idea. A lot of times I say something and it ends up somebody, I hear someone saying it later. It's like you just planted a seed, and they picked it up, and it's perfect. I love that. But I think that I called it a costume because I
Right.
was wearing my suit and my whole persona of efficiency. I mean, we were doing we were doing the change enablement group, which was HR training, and mergers and acquisitions mostly. So
Mhm.
cultures, it's a lot of training, and so you had a lot of fear in your clients, the people you were working with, your trying to put in a new application, a whole new um, computer system program, and people were used to the old, and then your mergers and acquisitions, they don't know if their job's still there. And that's why I mentioned trust, is that, we came to we were taught, come in as the authority and put on that costume. But
Right.
really, the truth is, take off the costume and get real. And that's how you help people.
Well, I love that because you're speaking directly into the authentic leadership and authentic being. And we're living in a day that's applicable not only to in our business culture, but all of our cultures, that where the leader, the C-suite, or wherever you are, even if you're leading your team, is that you have essentially no clothes. We've heard the proverbial cliche, the emperor has no clothes, but now the leader has no clothes. In other words, transparency is the new consciousness,
Mhm, mhm,
and the ability for ourselves to have enough trust in ourselves where we can essentially become transparent and trust ourselves enough to know that we're safe to show up in our most authentic self. Then we're all of a sudden becoming the next evolution of leadership, not only in our individual lives for ourselves and our family, but also for our community and our companies. And in that next transcendent space of leadership, which I call genius leadership,
right.
and that's a transcendent form of leadership, is beyond the great work that came out. I have a Youngheimer's moment. I'm forgetting who wrote it, around not a servant leadership, but also emotional intelligence. Those two great
Oh,
pieces of work.
Ken Blanchard was the one who popularized it, but there
That's
was,
it. And so ultimately now we're transcendent even of that. So this is the call of our time. I believe it's the invitation for each of us individually, and also most certainly of those of us that are leading, to really build a better world, to build a better culture within our company, to build really a place that's in greater service to the whole. We're being asked to step up for that. And one of the things I'll just add briefly here, Kathy, is that, and a kind of a starting point for people that are wondering, well, where am I in this place of conscious evolution in terms of transcending, the old, say, version. I think of myself as Adam 1.0 and Adam 2.0. So there's the evolution, that conscious evolution.
that's perfect.
And there's really four types of experiences, I believe, that we have individually, but also as leaders. And the first experience is that we play roles,
Mhm.
and in those roles we define ourselves as, well, mother, father, son, daughter, leader, man, woman, these kind of things, colors, race, these kind of things. And this is a place of that is really defined by an identity that's separate from our authentic self.
Exactly.
And in that place of our identity, we're playing either the victim or the perpetrator or the rescuer. I mean, just think in your places of work. Are you feeling that your boss is the perpetrator and he's creating challenges and trouble for you? And so, or the boss feels like, he is the perpetrator, and he's got to be, or she's got to be, the bad person. So this is a very kind of lower vibrational frequency that we're all being invited to transcend, and that moves us into the second life experience, that really is about life's happening from me. And let me explain briefly. In other words, this is where we want to engage in control. We feel that our life is something that we need to manage. In other words, we have our scheduler and everything's down to the 15 minutes, and I can go, lift a little weight, or I can go do whatever. It's like every second we're scripting ourselves, and we're needing to control our busy lives. Now, this is a life experience that, it's important because we all have great responsibility and we need to be in a somewhat of a greater understanding of everything that's going on. But where does that leave room for your interpersonal growth? Where does that leave room for your sense of inner joy and peace in your life? Is that creating enough space for the love of the world and the offering and abundance of the world to come into your life? And the answer is often no. It just does not, because we have an obsessive need to control and survive. So that is the third experience. The fourth experience, of course, in our conscious evolutionary path is that life's happening for us.
Right.
So everything's an extraordinary opportunity, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
We are really inviting these greater opportunities. And lastly, and I know I'm a bit verbose here, but
That
thank
was
you for giving
perfect.
me the
That
space.
was perfect.
Yeah, the last piece of it, and this is where we become genius leaders. This is where we become co-creators of our lives. In other words, we're not just living a fated life existence. We're moving into a place of destiny where we can create and build, the next version of ourselves, the next version of our companies, the next version of how to help others to create more impact and do more in the world. And when we do this, life moves through us.
Yes.
In other words, we're being penetrated by the greater quantum field and the greater totality of what's going on in our neurology and our biology all support this.
Right.
And we have a lot of great science that's going off on this, and that would be a whole conversation in its own right, how we're wiring ourselves as leaders, and whatever type of leader you may define yourself, but wiring into being the genius leader, the one that is really in a place of co-creating and really supporting the uplifting of our communities.
Well, I'm in a group called Co-Creators Convergence that was started by followers of Barbara Marx Hubbard, and
Mhm.
so that whole futurist version of humanity, the human, she called it Homo Universalis, I think is what she called the next version of human, because we're emergent. This is what's happening is it the upgrade and the upliftment of the whole earth from photonic energy coming through from the great central sun through our solar system is physically changing everything. It's changing the animals, the trees, everything, because we're all part of that whole system. And the opportunity for you to shine as your piece of that is now. It's physiologically for us that are sensitive. So I'm highly sensitive. You can almost, well, not almost, you can feel it. And I'm sure with what you went through with your cracking open, you can feel it as well. And what's happened is that there's beautiful opportunities um, for you to guide people over the bridge from where the old norm, which was a system that cannot exist in this new world. The new world is based on love and peace. And that old world is not the same mindset as the Aquarian age. There's just, we have to evolve. So what you're offering, the divine genius work, the divine leadership, the genius work, is a pathway to this new. It's taking the old and updating it to be relevant for the new. Would you agree?
Well, yes, 100%. And thank you for inviting our dearly beloved late friend, Barbara Marks. And Barbara spent many, many, many times and hours over here at my home in Santa Barbara. And we spent a lot of our time, our one-on-one time was how can we as futurists and mappers, how can we dream the world into being? In other words, collaborating co-creatively, and not to get off in semantics or that language, but to really ground what you're saying is the invitation to evolve. We have something extraordinarily happening on this planet that, well, it actually threatens the survival of the planet. And I'll keep it in just a little nutshell. And that is we've reached a punctuated point of evolution. And I just created a whole master's course around this because that punctuated point of evolution is where the rate of change, of evolutionary change, is happening in a very short period of time. And so what we're seeing out in our outer external environment, that everything is up for change, but it's at a hyper rate of change. A prime example of this is what our ecological scientists have now shared, and that is that we have, and according to a stat that just came out not so long ago by the World Wildlife Federation, is that 65+% of our biodiversity has been wiped out.
Wow.
So everything is being transformed and dissolved. It doesn't matter because that's the way and that's the time we're living in. But what does that offer us as human beings? Because we're conscious, we're sentient, and we have this enormous capacity in this beautiful machine we call the human body. We have a compassion, ability to regenerate ourselves and rewire and refire our brains, and even get into more the epicological sense of activating our DNA, as our good friend Dr. Bruce Lipton has
Yeah.
spoken so much
Yeah.
about. The point I'm trying to make is this is a great invitation, Kathy. This is a great invitation to really embrace this and ride this flow,
Yep.
and allow this flow to lift us. And the work that I've been doing in the research and study and through my own personal journey is to put forth a map, a process that allows us to move beyond the problem that keeps us stuck in the old design.
Okay.
And I want to just emphasize that it's not complicated. We want to make this so damn difficult because we're just in that linear left brain that is so analytical. It's that very masculine style of thinking and operating, but we're being invited into to move beyond the problem. And if you remember that Einstein quote, you can't solve the problem from the level the problem was created.
Right.
And that just says, if you think about it, well, gosh, we have to go beyond the problem that was created in separation. The problem is we're separate,
Right.
which is insane. We're not separate from nature. We're not separate from the quantum field, and we're not separate from each other. So that's just the way that the natural laws of the world work. So the invitation is, how do we bridge beyond? How do we go beyond? And the journey that I share in the divine genius, the unlearning curve, and those 13 wisdom teachings and the genius process says, here's a way to go back to the source that created the problem. Because when we get back to the source of the problem, then guess what? We can change. We can choose for a new operating system, a new genius mind, as I refer it, versus the old ego mind. So hopefully that makes some sense.
Yes.
And it's a powerful time, and these are extraordinary period that I think each of us can really quantum leap into our greater potential, just like the punctuated point of evolution is offering to all of us. Nature's going to regenerate. Nature's going to do her thing. It's not our job to save nature. It's our job to be attending to how we're functioning and how we're engaging and being in relationship, and aini, as we say in our shamanic traditions, in right relationship. And in the Buddhist tradition, it's like right livelihood, right path. So this is what we're talking about. And it's exciting to be here with you to do that.
Yes. Well, I can't. I am so happy to meet you and to know about your work, because I feel like we need as many people to translate the enthusiasm and the virtue of going through the work, because this work is inner work. It's all about releasing yours is the unlearning curve, because we've learned these other ways of being that
Yeah.
are contrary to the flow of nature. When you're in the flow, you know it. You're just happy, and it's like flying a kite. You just have this whole
Yeah.
buoyant feeling. And when you're under this superficial structures and confined, you're and that's what's happening, is all of those superficial structures are not aligned with the new energy. They will not exist. They can't.
Right.
So the thing is, jump on board. If you're a corporate leader, jump on board and check out what Adam has to offer, because he has the key and a not easy to follow. It's a way to follow. Nothing is easy unless you make it that way. But he is showing you, he can hold your hand as you transfer your and relinquish thoughts and patterns and practices that no longer serve you, and get you on the right road, the right track to experiencing life as heaven on earth. This is supposed to be a playground, you guys.
Well, yes, it is a playground, and I let's talk a little bit about the playground. And thank you for those kind words. And I would just say, I'm not the key. You are the key.
Okay.
And that's the whole idea of the divine genius and unlearning, which we can lean into a little bit, because it's a very powerful process that is instantaneously in quantum. But ultimately, I'm a guide that helps bridge and integrate the deeper inner authenticity with our how we're showing up in our vocational work and how we're living our lives, because it's about living our best life now, not the next one, right? So that's the core of my work, is to provide that map and that guidance, and actually a way to actually do it that's pragmatic and proven. So that's the idea. And one of the things that I found, Kathy, is we often live in a mindset that is about acquisition. In
Right.
other words, if I only had this, if I only had more resources, if I only had more time, if I only had love, these kind of things we are obsessive with, because in that separate identity and ego place, in that inauthenticity, it's always in lack in one way or another. In other words, it's like, how can I get something from you? And it's in the culture, in the greater cultural experience, in the planetary experience, we're seeing this as obvious, because the great interaction with nature says, how can I extract as much resources
Right.
from her as possible? Well, look where that's gotten us, folks. I mean, we're in a hell of a mess. And the important point is not the mess we're in, it's what we're going to do about it. And what we can do about it is incredible, because we get to write the end of the story. I
Right.
just did an interview with Paul Hotkin, who has an amazing new book
Oh,
called Regeneration. And we talked a lot about that. We can consciously write that into that story.
right.
And I believe that we need to do one thing, and I've kind of honed in this through my own personal journey, but I think it's applicable to in a universal sense. I think it's applicable to all aspects of our economy, and whether that's where you are in business, and that is that unlearning process. We don't need to get anything else. It's all there. It's already given. This is the nature of who we are. It's beautiful. It's amazing, but we're in our own way and we don't see it. And the reason why that's happening is what I have found is we're stuck in this problem. And this problem is clearly this idea that we're separated from ourselves in nature that we spoke about so much. And we need to return to the place where there's a solution. Because when we come back into a place where we can decide for something other than this problem mindset of the ego, we can decide for this genius mindset, this interconnectivity mindset, this whole mindset, and we can embrace this place where the problem is the solution. So we don't need to go out for a solution. The problem is the solution. So unlearning is a process of unwiring and letting go of our dependency on this idea of individuation in this separate mindset of the ego. Doesn't mean we're not unique. It doesn't mean we're not, we're incredible. So that's the idea of the unlearning curve. That's the idea of these wisdom teachings that are a bridge through a process that moves us beyond the problem and into a place where we can choose again. And I would say, if you get to that place, and that's the purpose of my work, is to get people and help people and guide people to that place where they can say, I'm ready to choose again, because you don't want the problem. Humanity's not wanting to live in that. We're in the place where we can emerge into our greater potential. And this is an awesome time to be alive and
Yes.
doing that.
Oh, this is game on time. Well, the other thing, there's so many things you just said that I could speak to, but I really want people to understand that you wake up a new person every day.
Yeah.
And you get a chance to choose. You get a chance to choose to be in service to yourself or in service to others, and in service to humanity, and be part of this positive change. We are such powerful beings. We are creating this hologram together. And we're going from your own personal hologram to hopefully a collective one that includes like-minded beings that are co-creating this new world. The hologram that has been the running system here has been based on service to self, and has been based on what can you do, tit for tat, like in business. Like, I do something for you, you automatically feel obligated to do something for me. That's not the new world. The new world is, did it feel wonderful for me to do that for you? I'm not asking for anything in return. It was my joy, my pleasure, and that joy magnifies, and that frequency affects miles away. So we're talking about a whole different way of looking at yourself as a piece of the puzzle, of this oneness puzzle. So how you're using, Adam, the earth as your unifying, the earth and shamanic practices, correct? As your oneness um, uh, explanation, or how do you work with oneness?
Well, my journey into oneness and unification is, first of all, it's my journey, and everybody has their own journey, and this is
Okay.
the importance of is we all get to decide what that is. But through my studies of Buddhism and mysticism, and other types of more philosophies that were transcendent of religiosity. I grew up in the Protestant church, and that wasn't going to do it for me. But my study of the Tao and Zen to a lesser degree, but also in the readings that I engaged in, while they were very diverse, I grounded myself really in two main disciplines. One is shamanism. The other is A Course in Miracles. I'm an 18-year student of A Course in Miracles,
Beautiful.
and together those are the foundational teachings, wisdom teachings that are I apply in my life, and also that are emerged through in the book and emerged through the process.
Right.
And in other words, these are steps and that come through the ages,
Right.
that are transcendent of time. So, in
Yeah.
other words, what has been proven and shown to support others in their own personal evolution. That's why I chose these two paths. And the shamanism is a path that bridges essentially the two worlds of the 3D world of form and the 5D or greater dimensionality of things that are formless. In other words, bringing together the form, the finite of the form, and the infinite nature of the formless. So bringing those two things together with grounded practices and application for how we can apply it in our place of our work. So these are extraordinary times that offer each of us an opportunity to quicken. I noticed you used the word alchemist, to be the alchemist of our lives, to really embrace the greater evolution, that 2.0 nature, as I refer to ourselves as. And the key step there, because we can talk philosophically all day, and we can get enlivened with all these neat wisdom teachers and all these people that are talking consciousness and mindfulness, blah blah blah. All this great stuff is fine, but really, how do we really take those first steps on the path? Because many of us feel like we're stuck. Many of us are itchy, so to speak. We're being prodded and poked. And while we don't have time today to get too deep into some of these teachings and some of these key steps, I just do want to offer that first wisdom teaching really is one of forgiveness. In
Exactly.
other words, the primary reason that I found on my own personal journey, and that each of us primarily is, as we want to rise into our greater power and potential as authentic leaders, genius leaders, is that we are stuck in a place where we seemingly are living in the future's past. In other words, we have 60, 70, 80,000 thoughts a day. 99% of those thoughts are all based on past conditioning and past experience.
Right.
You've heard it a million times. I go to therapy, Adam. These are limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm
Right.
not worthy. And we live a life of that. And this is the invitation to forgive ourselves, not for what happened in our lives, but for what didn't happen. And what didn't happen is we forgot. We forgot that we're connected to each other, to nature, to the quantum field. And this is the place of oneness that you spoke about. We simply have forgotten. And the idea is that we can forgive ourselves in our forgetting, in our judgment, then we can forgive others. And this is not to be de minimis to anybody that's going through has gone through tragic things or difficult things. I too, but
Right.
I want to
Right.
honor that for people. It's not to say it didn't happen. It's not to dismiss it, but it's to go right through it. In other words, do you want to practice forgiveness that keeps us locked into the past? Or do you want to move through your past and break through into your greater potential? And this pathway that I lay out in the Divine Genius, the Unlearning Curve, is the beginning step of all steps. If you don't take anything away from what we're talking about today, that if you can practice this true forgiveness, then you free yourself from these stories and these limiting belief systems that essentially are not serving us. They're keeping us and making us play small. And it's time to play big, where whoever you are, where everybody's needed. So those are a couple initial thought on
Okay.
practical things to do.
Perfect, perfect. Well, I do think so much of this work is self-love work because when I alluded to with the hologram is that the inside is actually projecting and creating your outside experience. And so the inner work is so important. The Course in Miracles, for those of you that are not familiar with it, it is based on forgiveness, and there are so many wonderful teachers Marianne Williamson is one. David Hoffmeister is one. There's so many, and then there's also a course after that called the Way of Mastery, which I don't know if you follow that, Adam, too. But there's another set of books after the Course of Miracles. Um, so Adam, what we're talking about is the potential for people to fall in love with their life again.
Mm.
We're talking about this shackles, victimization, this whole heaviness that everyone's feeling, and the apprehensive feeling of, oh no, what will I do next? That's how. What do you say to that? How does your book guide them to a new realization of the potential of getting through this to the good stuff?
Well, thank you for that, and I'm with you 100% that we are here to fully embrace the love of who we are and to love those places within ourselves that felt so unloved. I know that was a deep part of my work, is to love myself deeply, and that self-acceptance. And that can be difficult at times, even though we may feel solid and grounded. But when we move away from what we knew or what we thought we were, it becomes a question. And this inner knowing and this inner trust is such a key. And what is offered in the divine genius, the unlearning curve, it's not simply a journey to the love of ourselves and to have a love experience of full love and oneness in the world. It's a journey to what even precipitates oneness, to
Okay,
what precipitates unconditional love in the world, and that is a place of deep inner peace. And the
beautiful.
Dalai Lama spoke beautifully to this and constantly does, because without that foundational place of our inner peace, nothing else can really emerge other than more chaos and more challenging. We can have fleeting moments of happiness. We can experience conditional love. We can have those type of life experiences that continue to entrench us in an old way and old patterns, or we can come into a place of inner peace. The divine genius, the unlearning curve, is a guide for those of you that want to come into this place that is grounded in within your being, within the totality of your heart, your mind, your body, your soul, your emotions, where you go, everything is fine. We're
Yes,
okay. The world's crazy, all the shit that it does, but so that's the power of the divine genius. That's the power of the genius that lies within each of us,
right,
and that's the choice that we
right.
get to make right now.
That's so perfect. And we have an opportunity through this book and through working with Adam, and he's working on a course as well, but working with Adam, you have an opportunity to see the path that is genuinely your designed by your soul before you embodied to have, and to discover the blessing that you can be for all of us. There's the opportunity now to play with life at a different level rather than being
Yeah.
afraid of life. And so that's why I'm so excited about this book and so excited to meet you, Adam. And I didn't realize that you were friends with Barbara as well. Yeah, I got to spend some lots of time with her, and unbelievable, um, unbelievably articulate and passionate person. It's an amazing, amazing being. So she impressed me as well. But the thing is that a lot of the people that we've followed up until now, the early adopters, the early people didn't really give you a map. They talked about things, but they were planting seeds of awareness to wake people up and to give people a path to themselves. But now this is the time to actually do the work. This is the time to really have have the life you intended. Right?
Well, most certainly, and as we begin our show today, these are extraordinary times, and they present extraordinary opportunity. And to offering to us is an invitation to all of us to embrace our power, our authenticity. Um, we need nothing other than to embrace that and remember that deeper truth, and that will guide us into a greater evolution, I think, of our culture and of our business, and how we can evolve the world in a way that is in purpose, but also it serves the greater good of the whole. And this is well underway, and it's a great opportunity for all of us to embrace what has been given. We already have this. It's just a matter of, like, are we going to show up? And it's not a question of are we, it's only a question when we, and that
Right,
applies to each of us individually. So
right.
thank you for sharing that and inviting all of us to show up right now. And these are wonderful times that I believe can really lead to what we call the new earth, the new economy, the regenerative world that we're creating going forward together, so that we can offer a place for our children and our grandchildren that is one that is shared in the oneness, the peace, and the love of who we truly are as our indelible nature as human beings.
I'm optimistic about all of it. I know that some souls will choose to transition, but they may have chosen that from the beginning. But I think that most people that are watching this show and that are on this journey with us, this is your invitation. This is your invitation. You're more than you know. You're more important and more powerful than you know. And this is your opportunity to uncover that and have some fun with it. So, Adam, what are the best ways for people to get a hold of you so that they could learn more?
Well, please reach out and check out my website, adamhall.solutions. Couple things there. I offer a little free ebook called The Divine Genius Abundance, and it's about really ending lack and scarcity mindset. And this is a great little book. You can get that easy and perusal that. You can also do a life assessment if you're wondering where you are in terms of your evolution, your conscious evolution. There's a simple life assessment there. And of course, you can find my book, The Divine Genius, The Unlearning Curve, available on Amazon worldwide. I also make myself available. So please send me a note on my website. You can send a note. You have some questions. You're looking for some leadership guidance and training. You want to step more into your mission, empower yourself, and not fiddle around, but get super real and make it happen. Because this is the time, as we talked about today, to do that. So happy to support you and your business, and also our humanity and our planet to fulfill our collective mission and purpose.
Well, thank you so much for this important work, and I hope everyone will go to your website, and I put it in the comments as well, so that people will have a direct link. This is the time, again, please, please, please take advantage of this beautiful work and get a copy of this book. You'll be impressed, and you will be transformed by it. So, and in a very good way. So, well, thank you, Adam. Gotta rock. Thank you so much. Loved
Thank
our time together.
thank you. Thank you. Be well, everyone.
Yes.
Blessings.
Bye bye.